Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about chemical reactions and balancing chemical equations. So there's a couple of terms which I'm going to use, which we're going to talk about first of all. So the first one I'm going to use is an atom. So an atom is a small building block which is used to make everything. So everything around us is made out of atoms. And then the different atoms are listed on the periodic table. So atoms are things like oxygen or hydrogen or carbon, and things are joined together to make from these atoms to make different kinds of things. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is a compound. So a compound is two or more different atoms joined together. So for example, carbon dioxide is a compound. It's called carbon dioxide. So it's made from carbon, and then di means two. So it's made from one carbon and two oxygens. And those are physically joined together. That's called a compound. All right, so those are some of the terminology which I'm going to use. Then what I'm going to do here is start talking about how a chemical equation works, what it's for, what it's showing us, and how everything works out. So I've got here a chemical equation, and I've drawn here some things to represent different kinds of atoms. So I'm going to use this purple one here with Na written on it, which is for sodium. If you look on a periodic table, you'll find sodium listed on there, and the symbol for it is Na. Likewise, I've got chlorine, which is going to be Cl, oxygen, which is going to be O, and hydrogen, which is going to be H. So when I look at my chemical equation here, this is telling me that I've got Na, which is one sodium, and it's physically joined together with one oxygen and one hydrogen. So this is a compound of sodium, oxygen, and hydrogen. This one is a compound made of hydrogen and chlorine. This one is made from sodium and chlorine, and this one, because it's got this little 2 here, this means it's got 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of these little circles to show you exactly how these are set up. So I've got some down here. So the NaOH is made up from Na, O, and H. Now those 3 things there, they are physically joined together. They are a compound, so all of them are joined together. They're bonded like that. And I've also got this H and the Cl here. Just going to go back so we can see our key. So this compound here is made up from sodium, oxygen, hydrogen. So it's got 1 sodium, 1 oxygen, 1 hydrogen. This is made up from 1 hydrogen and 1 chlorine. Now, when we have a chemical reaction, what happens is the bonds, or what's holding these atoms together, break, and the atoms rearrange themselves in a different way. So this equation is telling me that the sodium, the oxygen, and the hydrogen react with the hydrogen and the chlorine. This is called hydrochloric acid. This is called sodium hydroxide. They react together and they make these other things, which is called sodium chloride, and H2O you probably know is called water. So the way this works is that these atoms here rearrange themselves, rejoin up in a different way. So the sodium comes over here and joins up with its chlorine. And then the oxygen comes over here and joins up with those 2 hydrogens. So what I've got now is a different compound of sodium chloride and here water. So the atoms which were here have rearranged themselves, joined together in a different way, like that. Now that's all well and good. However, sometimes you get more complicated ones. So what we have here is sodium hydroxide again, NaOH, and here I've got something which is called sulfuric acid. So it's made of H2SO4. So this small 2 here is meaning 2 hydrogens here and here. This S is sulfur, which is in my key up here. And here, O4 means there's 4 oxygens, 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're all joined together again to make a compound. And the equation is telling me that they rearrange and they make this other thing here. So now, if I try to rearrange the atoms and make this, I will take my sulfur and my 4 oxygens. That's going to be okay. And I'm going to take my hydrogen and my oxygen and my hydrogen. And I take a sodium here. And I see now that over here I don't have the right things. I've got, what I need is another sodium to go here, which I don't have, And what I've got here is an extra hydrogen, which I didn't need here. So this time it didn't work. I couldn't rearrange things in the correct order like I wanted to last time. So this is the essence of how to balance an equation. We have to be able to balance it so that everything we have on the left-hand side can make everything we've got on the right-hand side. You can see here that this didn't work. I'm missing a sodium, and I've got an extra hydrogen which I didn't need. Oh, hold on, that hydrogen shouldn't be there. I've got, I guess it should. Yeah, that came from there. So I've got an extra hydrogen here that I didn't need. So this didn't work. So we don't do it like that. So let me just rub out all of those things. And I've got some here which I prepared. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just put compounds like this. Now, the essence of balancing the equation is that what we need to do is we need to add additional numbers of the compounds so that we can have the correct number on each side. Now, when I add a new compound, I can't add just individual atoms. I can't just add one sodium. I've got to add the entirety of the compound because these are the ingredients I've got for my reaction. So I've got NaOH. I haven't got anything else. That's what I've got. So it's NaOH. So if I add more, I have to add an entire NaOH. Now I saw before that I didn't have enough sodiums. On this side I've only got one, purple one, and on this side I've got two. So what I'm going to need to do is add another one of those. So if I paste another one on here, like that. So now I've got the correct number of sodiums. I've got 2 on this side, and I've got 2 on this side. I can now see that I've got an additional problem because now I've got more hydrogens, and I can see that my sulfurs are good. I've got one sulfur here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oxygens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens and 1, 2 here. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to make an additional water. So if I were to paste the water here like that, now I think everything should work correctly. So if I count up, I've got 2 purple sodiums, 2 purple sodiums. I've got 1 sulfur, 1 sulfur, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oxygens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 oxygens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogens. So everything is worked out correctly. I can see that I've got the same number of atoms. No atoms are lost, there's no atoms left over, everything is good. So that is what's called balancing the equation. So the way I would show that is because I've got NaOH twice here, I would add to my equation a big 2 here in front of it. Now that 2 means 2 of the entire thing, whereas this 2 here means 2 hydrogens inside part of the compound. A big number at the front means 2 of the entire thing. And the other thing I did was I added an extra H2O, so I would have to put 2 in front of the H2O as well. Let me just move that up. 2 like that. Okay, so now my equation should be balanced. Everything should be working out okay. Okay, so I've got here a simulator from PhET which shows very similar things. So down here, it's got the equation. I've got carbon and H2O, which is water, and it's making this thing CH4, which is called methane, and this CO2, carbon dioxide here. So again, the idea is to balance the equation. So if I have to make one of everything first of all, so then I can see what the compounds look like. So here I've just got 1 carbon. Here I've got the red one is the oxygen, and then the 2 white ones are the hydrogens. Here I've got CH4. It's sort of drawn a 3D one. So there's 1 carbon and 4 hydrogens, and then here I've got C and then O2. So what I need to do is to try to balance everything up. So if I look, first of all, I can see here on this side there's only 1 carbon, whereas on this side there's 2. So I can maybe increase the number of carbons here to balance that. I can also see that on this side there's only 1 oxygen, whereas on this side I have 2 oxygens. So I can maybe increase that to balance the oxygens up. Now, so the carbons are good, the oxygens are good, and I just need to look at the hydrogens now. So on this side I've got 4, on this side I've also got 4. So I think everything should be okay. So if I press check, I can see that I've balanced it. So this is a good thing for you to practice when you're first learning. I'm going to do some practice questions in the next video, but you can come and sign on to PhET. I will put the link in the notes for the episode.